After staying at the Bai family for 18 years, Yechen realized that she was a fake daughter. The true daughter has returned, she has been abandoned and will be sent back to the impoverished mountain valley. Unexpectedly, the dote called impoverished mountain valley is actually the most expensive villa area for wealthy people in the country. Overnight, she went from being a fake daughter of an ordinary wealthy family to a true daughter of a top-tier wealthy family. My biological parents dote on their daughter and become crazy, spending tens of millions of dollars on pocket money. They drive luxury cars in the garage and buy high-end cars around the world. Want to go to school? Top-tier universities for you to choose from. Don't want to go? Come on, take the company at home and play. What surprised Yechen the most was that she still had a fiancé. When her fiancé came to her door to divorce, Yechen didn't care. But why did this person propose to divorce first, but then entangle themselves with her? I always want to hold hands and kiss my lips. Yechen was annoyed. Sir, who are you? Baby, I'm your husband. Oh, my husband doesn't have one, only one ex-fiancé who is about to withdraw. The world's richest man, Yechen, who is feared by everyone outside, said, I really want to kill that silly fork who openly proposed to withdraw without even meeting in person. Keywords of the novel. After getting divorced, Sishao chases his wife at the crematorium. No pop-ups. After getting divorced, I will pursue my wife at the crematorium. Download the complete set of TXT. After getting divorced, Sishao chases his wife at the crematorium. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Last meal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Last meal by family. When the nanny served the last dish, Bai Zhenhai finally picked up chopsticks and put a chicken wing into Yechen's bowl. This may be the last meal our father and daughter have in our lives. I didn't expect your biological parents to take you back so soon. His tone was filled with reluctance, and he couldn't help but recall the scene of being seriously ill 3 months ago in his mind at that time. He urgently needed blood, and when Yechen donated blood to him, she suddenly realized that the two were not in a father-daughter relationship. This shocked everyone in the Bai family. After recovering from his illness, Bai Zhenhai went through many twists and turns and finally found his own flesh and blood. Bai Muyao. The lost flesh and blood are regained, and the entire Bai family naturally has a precious treasure. And Yechen, this child without blood ties, posted on the search website by the Bai family. Yesterday someone called and said it was Yechen's biological mother. Today they want to pick her up. These are all the dishes you love to eat. Bai Zhenhai withdrew his thoughts and mixed them with various flavors for Yechen. Come on, eat more, maybe when you get there. In yesterday's phone call, Bai Zhenhai learned that her biological parents are currently unemployed and their hometown is in Taoyuan County. That county is the most backward and impoverished place in the country. Not to mention the delicacies on this dining table, I guess I won't even be able to eat enough white rice over there. Sitting at the dining table, Yechen's eyes were clear as water, as if she could see his thoughts. There was no ripple in her clear eyes, but she calmly put down her chopsticks and said, I'm full. She stood up and left, her back resolute and graceful, as if she had no attachment to this family. Su Yechen immediately felt unhappy. This dead girl despises the chopsticks you've used. Over the years, you've gotten used to her particular habits. You don't eat the delicacies of the mountains and seas, and when you get there, she will naturally suffer. Mom, calm down. Sister definitely doesn't want to go back to the countryside. She's feeling restless at the moment. The speaker is Bai Muyao, who has been taken back to the Bai family for a month now. Yesterday she overheard her parents talking and learned that Yechen's original family was very poor. Not only were her parents unemployed, but there were also 5 unmarried brothers and a seriously ill grandmother in the family. The burden of family can be imagined. Bai Muyao's sense of superiority arose and she couldn't help but stand up and say, I'll go see her off. At the dining table, Bai Zhenhai gave Su Aiqin a reproachful glance and said, "At least once, Yen was also our child." Haha. Su Aiqin sneered, "I just want to think that over the years, we've treated this dead girl like a treasure, making Yao suffer outside. My heart feels like a knife." Yen walked to the living room, picked up the backpack from the sofa, and prepared to leave the house. Bai Muyao immediately caught up and said, "Sister, October 1st is my engagement banquet with Gao Yang. Are you coming?" Her eyes were filled with anticipation, but her tone couldn't hide pride and flaunt. As is well known, the Bai and Gao families have a marriage engagement. If it weren't for her being brought back by Bai Zhenhai, the person who got engaged to Gao Yang during National Day would be Yen. Gao Yang is really an excellent boy who treats me well. If it weren't for me being brought back by my parents, the person who got engaged to him would be your sister. Sister, you wouldn't blame me for this, would you? Yen lightly curled her lips and said, "Thanks to you, you have given the trash a place to go." Ah. What? I was just about to throw him into the recycling bin, but I didn't expect someone to come and collect it so soon. You. Bai Muyao originally wanted to get angry, but when she saw a figure, she immediately felt aggrieved like a little rabbit with red eyes. Su Aiqin came to the living room and happened to see this scene. She couldn't help but get angry and said, "Yen. How did you talk to your sister? Did you poison your mouth?" "My mouth is very good," Yenfei's lips curved slightly. "It's you who should go see an ophthalmologist. How could I spend a month with this little white lotus, but I didn't notice her white lotus attribute, and my eyes were not good." "You." Su Aiqin trembled with anger. "Elder sister, I give you my favorite necklace from my parents. After all, sisters were separated this time, and I don't know when we will meet." Bai Muyao, despite the past grievances, ran up to hold Yen, but her hand just touched Yen's backpack next second. Surprise everyone's expectations. Unexpectedly, a ruby necklace fell out of Yen's backpack. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. Bai Muyao couldn't help but cover her mouth and said, "How could? How did the ruby necklace she wanted to give to her sister fall out of her backpack? Is it? Yen Qingqian curled her lips. "Why, is this falsely accusing her of stealing? How could Yao's necklace be with you?" Su Aiqin couldn't believe her eyes and quickly shouted, "Zhenhai, come and take a look." As this dead girl was about to leave, she dared to take Yao's necklace. "I didn't expect that we have been raising a white-eyed wolf for so many years." Bai Zhenhai rushed over and was clearly taken aback. "What's going on?" "It's okay, Mom and Dad." Bai Muyao quickly reconciled and said empathetically, "This necklace was originally meant to be given to my sister. If I take it out, it's the same as if she took it herself." "What's the difference then?" "If you give it to her, it's called giving it away. If she takes it herself, it's called stealing." Su Aiqin was furious. "You're such a good Yen, why don't you learn? You're just learning to be a thief." "Mom, you can't say that, sister." Bai Muyao picked up the ruby necklace on the ground and kindly handed it to Yen. "Sister, don't take what Mom said to heart. I know you're taking this necklace as a plan for the future, right? I heard that your conditions are not very good. Maybe this necklace will come in handy in the future. Take it." Several nannies around couldn't help but speak. "Miss Eyre, you're too kind. This necklace is worth 100,000 yuan. This is something that the old lady specially invited a designer to design for you. It's unique in the world, only this one. Your name is still engraved on it. Miss Eyre usually likes this necklace so much, but now she reluctantly gives it to Mr. Miss stole your favorite jewelry, but you didn't blame her. Mrs.'s attitude was so bad just now, and you were so kind to her. Your heart is too kind." Bai Muyao listened to the praise around her and raised her reasonable gaze, "Sister needs it more than I do. People around praised them repeatedly and couldn't help comparing their two sisters. The more I compare, the more I feel that Yechen is inferior to Bai Muyao in every aspect. Except for her pretty face, everything else is really not as good as Bai Muyao's finger. Su Yechen snatched the necklace from Bai Muyao's hand and said with heartache, "You silly child, her side is a bottomless pit. Even if you can't fill 10 necklaces." End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Throwing into the trash can. You are listening at Novel Full Audio. Chapter 2. Throwing into the trash can. Speaking of this, Su Yechen looked at Yechen with disgust and said, "We have raised you all these years, and we have done our utmost justice. This necklace is a gift we gave to Yao Yao. Don't be delusional. Before I report it to the police, hurry up and get lost." Mom. Bai Muyao heard this and said anxiously, "Sister's biological parents are not working, and there are 5 older brothers in the family who want to marry a wife. In addition, there is a seriously ill grandmother that needs to be taken care of by sister. This necklace can also be sold for some money, and sister needs it more than me." Several nannies were moved by Bai Muyao's kindness. "She is really too sensible." "That's so kind. Mom, since you gave me this necklace, I have the right to dispose of it." Bai Muyao stubbornly snatched the necklace back from Su Yechen's hand and presented it to Yechen as if offering a treasure. "Sister, please take it away quickly. I won't blame you for stealing. This was supposed to be given to you." Yechen raised her gaze, and under her long black eyelashes, a pair of trimmed autumn pupils looked at her with interest. "Emphasize stealing again. This little white lotus only has a few moves to use, doesn't it have any more advanced means?" "Sister, I'll help you stop Mom. You go." Yechen Fei's lips curved lightly, and her clear and charming eyes seemed to see through everything. Bai Muyao was a bit afraid of her appearance, her indifferent and controlling aura, like a queen towering above. While it is unsettling, it also feels a bit guilty. Yechen took the necklace and lightly hooked her lips. She really didn't like such a cheap ruby, whether its color, clarity, or cutting. What kind of small workshop is it that can produce such a thing? 100,000, in her opinion, it's worthless. Just when everyone thought Yechen would take this necklace, the next second, Yechen threw the necklace directly into the trash can. Her movements were crisp and sharp. Without any delay, in half a second everyone was stunned, and even Su Yechen was stunned for a while before angrily saying, "Yechen, what are you doing? This is your sister's most precious necklace. She gave it to you with good intentions, but you actually lost it. If you give it to me, then I have the right to dispose of it." Yechen raised her eyebrows and scanned lightly. "I haven't taken any of the things you have arranged for me over the years. How could a mere necklace catch her eye? I bought the clothes on my body and the things in my backpack myself." Yechen's words made one of the nannies couldn't help but sneer. "Did you buy it yourself? Your money? Wasn't it given to you by the old lady? Where did I get my money? I need to report it to you. You just need to do your job well and be a good nanny." The nanny is really angry and can't do anything to her. "All right," Bai Zhenhai sighed and maintained a calm attitude. Yechen, it's almost time. I'll take you out." "No need, Mr. Bai, please stay." This Mr. Bai intends to draw a clear line with him. Su Yechen sneered coldly. This dead girl has never been to the mountain ditch, and she doesn't know how difficult life is there. Now she urgently needs to draw a clear line and don't cry to recognize their parents in the future. "Grandpa, don't you check her bag? I see there's a lot of things inside." The nanny just now reminded Bai Zhenhai persistently. "All right." Bai Zhenhai is also the richest man in Winter City. Even if this child really goes smoothly, he won't bring it to the table. He wouldn't do such a shameful act as searching for packages and bodies. Yechen walked out of the door carrying a backpack, where a black sedan was parked. What sets this sedan apart is that it clearly shows signs of being hit, with not only a raised rear hood but also a sunken body. The windshield is still a bit broken. The driver got off the car in a bit of embarrassment, with his glasses tilted to one side, clearly broken. However, he was slightly stunned at the first sight of Yechen. The girl in front of me has picturesque features, a delicate nose, and a charming appearance, just like when my wife was young. However, the girl was more imposing and captivating than the lady at that time. "Sorry, Miss Six." The driver quickly approached Yechen and apologized sincerely. "Just now, I was hit by a truck and accidentally hit the railing. I was afraid it would take up your valuable time, so I didn't go home to change the car. However, I checked the car and it was fine, but it didn't look very good on the outside." This sentence reveals a huge amount of information. Isn't it said that her home is in a poor mountain valley, and she actually has a car? If she's not mistaken, this car is a Rolls-Royce Supreme Customized Edition. There's only one in the world, worth billions. Yechen playfully curled her lips and said, "Miss Six." "Yes, you're sixth, and there are 5 older brothers on top." The driver added quickly, "Oh, by the way, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm the driver at home, just call me Uncle Lou." "Do you have a dedicated driver?" It seems that her biological family is not as bad as the Bai family said. "Miss Lou, where is your luggage?" Uncle Lou couldn't help but wonder when he saw that she only carried one bag. "Is it inside? I'll go in and help you pick it up." "No need, all my luggage is here." Yechen didn't have much to carry, her voice was lazy. The driver nodded and said, "Then you can wait for me in the car first. I will take the gift given by the old lady and express my gratitude to your foster parents. I will leave immediately." Uncle Lou pulled open the handle of the rear door and wanted to invite Yechen to board the car. Unexpectedly, the next second, the car door shook and fell down. "It's all because the truck hit too hard just now and damaged the car door." This scene happened to be seen by the Bai family who walked out. Bai Muyao has really opened her eyes. What kind of broken car is this? Is the car door made of paper? How could you be so embarrassed to drive it out and make a fool of yourself? How poor this family is. Even a car like this needs to be taken out to show off. Su Aiqin never expected that Yechen's biological family would be so bad. How dare you drive such a rundown car? Isn't it embarrassing? No, her home is in a poor mountain valley, so she probably doesn't have a car at home. This car is highly likely borrowed by this man from his friends to save face, right? Unfortunately, my driving skills are not good and I crashed on the road. If that's really the case, then things will be much more interesting. When they return the car, they will have to pay for it. Bai Zhenhai looked at the man in front of him, all dirty and with several obvious gasoline stains on his suit. Is this person repairing a car? It doesn't seem like Yechen's brother based on age. Is it Yechen's father? He should have rushed over from the auto repair shop and driven someone else's car to show off. If that's the case, then this person would be very vain. He has no need to spend a lot of money in front of the richest man in Winter City. Although there is a Rolls-Royce logo on the front cover of this car, as someone with status, how could Bai Zhenhai not see that this car doesn't look like any Rolls-Royce car at all? He has lived for so many years and has never seen such a Rolls-Royce. This logo is definitely fake. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Meeting someone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Meeting someone. The driver accidentally dirted his suit while inspecting the car just now. At this moment, he saw the Bai family walking out of the villa. Ignoring so much, he quickly took out a few gift boxes from the trunk. This gift box is 1,000 reminders and instructions from the master and wife, and must be delivered to the hands of the Bai family. Unfortunately, the truck rear-ended just now, and several gift boxes were all deflated, making the appearance not very attractive. Presumably you are Mr. Bai. The driver came to Bai Zhenhai and politely presented the gift box. These are our intentions, please accept them. How about that? Bai Zhenhai quickly declined, you're too polite. Over the years, we There's no need for the gift. Hurry up and take her back, don't make the family wait too quickly. Yechen interrupted their conversation, withdrew her gaze, and even lazily entered the room. Such a broken gift box, I don't think it's a good thing. Their family doesn't need such a thing. Bai Muyao suppressed a sarcastic smile and followed in the footsteps of Yechen. With her superior appearance, she looked like a winner in a battle. She didn't expect Yan's native family to be so poor, it was really satisfying. A few nannies, either contemptuous, or sympathetic, also followed into the room. Only Bai Zhenhai stood awkwardly in the same place and said, "Then you have a good trip. This gift is just a token of my heart when I turn to the elders of Yan's family." But this. The driver couldn't be such a master. These gifts were specially instructed by the old lady to be accepted by the Bai family, Yan. Bai Zhenhai's gaze fell on Yan and he said politely, "When you go there, you should listen well and show filial piety to your parents. Don't worry about this side. In the future, everything will be more important to that side. Remember. The meaning of this is to make Yan forget about this place in the future. If he goes there, he will be the people there. Mr. Bai, would you like to accept this?" Mr. Bai. The driver originally intended to say that there were 30 villas, 30 shops, and keys inside, as well as a $3 billion bank card, as well as Millennium Ginseng, Lingji, and other items that cannot be bought on the market. It's all the kindness of the master and wife. But looking at the back of Bai Zhenhai entering the house, before the driver could say anything, doubt surged in his heart. How did he feel that this family didn't like Miss Six? Is it his illusion? Yan picked up the car door with bare hands and easily put it back in place. "Let's go," she said, seeing her sitting in the car. The driver was stunned. Did Miss Six install that door? How did she do it? Along the way, Yan casually looked out the window, her beautiful face pleasing to the eye. The driver occasionally glanced at her through the rearview mirror, and the more he looked at her, the more he felt like a young lady. Every move exudes a sophisticated beauty. Isn't it going to Taoyuan County? Yan suddenly spoke, his gaze falling on the driver. Taoyuan County. The driver came to his senses. "Oh. That's the hometown of the old lady. Your home is in Beijing." Beijing is the most economically developed first-tier city in China. There are a total of 4 districts in the east, west, north, south, and north, among which the North District is the most economically backward. The northern region is further divided into Shanghe County, Xiahe County, Suahe County, and Youhe County, with Youhe County having the slowest economic development. There are 4 towns below Youhe County, namely Chuncheng, Xiacheng, Qiucheng, and Dongcheng. Bai Zhenhai is the richest man in Winter City. Although Bai Zhenhai struggled for half his life, he finally moved from a third-tier city to Beijing at the beginning of this year and became the richest man in the most backward northern district of Beijing. The most backward Youhe County. The most backward Winter City, which is the edge town of Beijing. But it's not enough compared to the top, there's more than enough compared to the bottom. His personal wealth has exceeded 1 billion RMB, which is also the reason why Yechen is aloof and looks down on others. After Bai Muyao entered the room, she accidentally glanced out the window. At this glance, she couldn't believe her own eyes and was stunned. "Mom, their car. What's going on?" Yechen followed her gaze and said disapprovingly, Yao, Mom told you that from now on, you have nothing to do with Yan anymore. Don't treat her like a sister anymore, and block all her contact information. Even if she borrows money from you through other means, you won't be allowed to lend her, do you know?" "No, Mom. What do I think about the car just now? Is it the license plate number of our city? It seems like it's Jingye. Or 5-6 consecutive numbers. You should know that such a license plate number is an amazing presence in Beijing. Due to the car parked horizontally at the entrance of their villa just now, Su Yechen only saw the side of the car and did not see the license plate directly behind it. However, upon hearing Bai Muyao's words, she still smiled, thinking that her daughter was too ignorant. Yao Yao, in our city, with 5 identical license plate numbers, that's the top figure in the pyramid. That dead girl's home is in Taoyuan County, you must have read it wrong. Even their license plate number is not a good number. How could Yan's family possibly have such a beautiful license plate? Unless her house is in a villa on the other side of the lake. Su Yechen sneered. Bianan Lake Villa is the most famous, expensive, and best located wealthy villa area in Beijing, located in the center of the city in the most valuable place. In the Rolls-Royce car, the driver respectfully spoke, Miss Six, there are still 20 kilometers from your home. The lakeside villa on the other side. If you are tired, you can take a nap. Under Yan's long eyelashes, a pair of morning dew-like eyes are as clear as water. Is her home in the lakeside villa on the other bank? The most expensive villa area in Beijing. Can I go to Jinkong Hospital once? Jinkong Hospital is a municipal hospital with the best medical resources, not far from the lakeside on the other side. Miss Lu, is she feeling uncomfortable? The driver suddenly tensed up. I'll accelerate now. Before leaving, I want to visit Grandma Bai from the Bai family. In the Bai family, only Mrs. Bai sincerely treats her. Since learning that she is not the flesh and blood of the Bai family, Mrs. Bai has been bedridden and hospitalized for recuperation. The driver didn't expect her to be a filial child, and while agreeing, his impression of her improved a bit. 10 minutes later. The car stopped at the entrance of Jinkong Hospital, and Yan got off the car with a soft voice. Uncle Lu, please find a place to wait for me. Okay. In the inpatient department of Jinkong Hospital, in room 301, there lies an old lady with gray hair. Due to suffering from the torment of illness, his face weakened and he stood on end. When Yan pushed the door in, she was still unconscious, with her eyes closed and her face pale. The wrinkles on her forehead add a touch of vicissitudes to her appearance. Yan walked lightly to the hospital bed, feeling the sourness spreading slowly in her heart. When did that energetic old lady become what she is now? Xiaoyan. The young doctor who was on ward rounds looked up at her and then lowered his head to write in the medical record book. You came just in time, let's talk. He put away his pen, raised his harmless face, and a pair of seductive eyes stared straight at her. You also know that various drugs for treating the heart are not effective for the old lady now. Previously, increasing the dosage could last a few more days, but now it's not working. You know better than anyone else that in the end stage of heart failure, it's like the heart has reached its endpoint and cannot be reversed. In fact, it's a miracle that she can live to this day. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Does this little girl understand medicine? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Does this little girl understand medicine? I didn't wait for the doctor to finish speaking. Yan threw a small bottle over and her gaze remained on the old lady from beginning to end. Eason pill. Tang Yang saw clearly what was in his hand and couldn't conceal his shock. Xiaoyan, where did you get this thing from? Isn't this the elixir that has been causing huge waves on the black market recently? It is said to have miraculous effects in treating the heart, with a small one costing tens of millions. The high price is secondary, mainly because this small item is particularly rare, only one is auctioned off per month. How did Xiaoyan get such a rare thing? The Bai family has treated you this way. If you ask me, you have done enough for the Bai family, there is really no need. Before Tang Yang could finish speaking, he received a warning glance from Yan. What's wrong, am I not right? They didn't even show your hospitality when their own son came. Half a year ago, Tang Yang graduated from a top medical university in China and interned at Jinkong Hospital. Relying on his family background in medicine, he was a newcomer and arrogant. It wasn't until he met Yechen that he knew what it meant to have a heaven outside the world and a man outside the world. Once, he was studying a tricky case and repeatedly delved into it late at night, unable to sleep. As a result, Yechen glanced at it and offered him a very good solution with a few light words. Another time, Yechen accidentally saw a patient's chest X-ray and CT and knew that the patient had lung cancer. Prior to this, his judgment was severe pneumonia. There are still many things like this. What impressed him the most was that, Mrs. Bai, a dying person who was sentenced to death by him, was repeatedly rescued from the gates of hell by Yechen. Yechen. This terrifying high school student, every time he appears, it brings him endless shock, shatters his arrogance, whips his ignorance, and makes him have to lower his head to be a person. During the 6-month internship, Tang Yang also witnessed her not being treated well by the Bai family. Later on, she became acquainted and the two became friends. He knew that in Mrs. Bai's situation, it was best to have a heart transplant. But her advanced age, high blood pressure, and total heart failure. She couldn't even undergo surgery. Yechen is now using Yechen pills for her, hoping that her condition will be better and she won't be as fragile as a paper man, hanging up before she even goes to the operating table. But the Bai family didn't know. They thought they could just pay some money and keep Mrs. Bai in the VIP ward. If it were the Bai family, they wouldn't have bought this thing for 10 million. Alright, help me take good care of my grandmother, Yechen said reluctantly after looking at the old lady Bai. I should go now. It is not advisable to stay here for a long time. If the old lady wakes up and sees her, her emotions will become even more excited. When the condition worsens, it will be more difficult to handle. Tang Yang glanced at her and whispered, I'm here, don't worry. Yechen's gaze fell on old lady Bai. Although she had a lot to say, she didn't say a word in the end and left room 301. On the other side, several doctors walked hastily and looked flustered. What's going on? How could Mr. C's condition suddenly worsen? It is said that he refused to take medicine in order to force Lord Chen to appear. It's just nonsense. Not long after Yechen left room 301, her shoulder was suddenly bumped by one of the doctors. When they rushed to room 306 in a hurry, Yechen passed by and happened to see the old man on the hospital bed with one foot already stepping into the gates of hell. He actually stopped taking medication without authorization. Isn't that a joke about his own life? What should we do now? Have we notified the family yet? The family members are already on their way here, and we can only wait for them to come before deciding whether to undergo surgery. Yechen stood at the entrance of room 306 and casually reminded, he'll die when his family comes. A few anxious doctors heard these words and followed the sound one after another. There stood a young girl at the door, who looked only in her teens, but exuded a cold and imposing aura all over her body. Her eyes were bright and clear, and her thin and white legs added a lot of points to her temperament. You little girl, what do you know? The male chief doctor saw that she was still a child and didn't argue with her. This old man's condition is very complicated. If we are confident, our hospital will definitely save him as soon as possible. There is no way to delay the arrival of the family now. Yechen raised her eyebrows and asked indifferently, rheumatic heart disease, very serious. Can you tell? The male director was somewhat surprised. Another elderly female director was also surprised. Does this child still know medicine? Since you know this is caused by rheumatic heart disease, you must also know that you have this disease and need to undergo valve replacement surgery. This old man is not the first time he has undergone valve replacement surgery, explained the male director. The girl raised her fair and delicate face, with a dazzling light flowing in her charming eyes, as if she didn't take it seriously. If you need to undergo another valve replacement surgery, it can only indicate that you did not use sufficient antibiotics for treatment, which is why infection and paravalvular leakage occurred. Upon hearing her words, the doctors in the entire ward were stunned. Does this little girl really understand medicine? She even knows about the leakage of the petals. The old man experienced infection and paravalvular leakage because he stopped taking medication without proper antibiotic treatment. What are you talking about with a girl doll? How long will the family be here? The old man who said this was Zhang Ziyuan, the most powerful cardiac expert in the hospital. He was over 50 years old and spoke with a sense of authority. Professor Zhang, everyone became respectful as he spoke, and one of them replied, according to the family's previous speed, it would take at least 20 minutes. 20 minutes is too long. Professor Zhang calculated in his mind that Mr. C couldn't afford to wait anymore. Mr. C had previously undergone mitral valve replacement surgery abroad, but soon developed paravalvular leakage. Therefore, he went abroad to undergo another heart valve replacement surgery. But not long after the surgery was completed, he developed infections and recurrent paravalvular leakage. At that time, the situation was very critical, and it was too late to go abroad again, so he had to be treated domestically. The cardiology department of Jinkong Hospital is well known nationwide, and Professor Zhang's medical skills are even more renowned. That night, Professor Zhang faced pressure from all directions and completed an impossible surgery, which was equivalent to creating a miracle. But not long after, Mr. C developed another infection and had to undergo another surgery. Now, his condition has become even more severe, with an upper respiratory tract infection gradually developing into pneumonia, which is difficult to control and has also shown symptoms of heart failure. Professor Zhang just checked and found that Mr. C has developed artificial valve infective endocarditis and paravalvular leakage. Again, the condition is extremely critical. In this situation, the success rate of surgery is less than 10%. There is only one solution now. Wait for the family to come. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. You can't afford it. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 5. You can't afford it. As long as the family members sign the surgical consent form, they can confidently save the person. Even if the doctor dies, it has nothing to do with their hospital or doctors. They have done their best. However, based on Mr. C's current symptoms, it is obvious that he cannot wait for his family members. If no measures are taken, he will be out of breath in 10 minutes. Professor Zhang, why don't we wait for the family to come before we talk? A young deputy chief doctor, Chiu Susu, tentatively spoke up, in case there is an automatic surgery. If something happens, Lord Chen won't let them go. This situation is not something they can save if they want to. Mr. C's fate must be explained here today. In my opinion, give him a shot of sedative first. One shot will soothe the heart, and we can wait until the family comes. Chiu Susu suggested again. The other doctors had no better way, silent, looking at Professor Zhang as if waiting for him to make a decision. Chiu Susu saw that Professor Zhang had not spoken for a long time, so she took on the role of this bad person and ordered the little nurse beside her to go and get some sedatives and soothing pills. The little nurse is preparing to go and get it. If you get an injection now, you will definitely die, said Yechen lazily at the door again. As long as the sedatives and soothing pills are used, even if Watua is alive, he will not be able to return to heaven. Because the old man's current physical condition is too fragile to withstand the effects of medication. These 2 doses of medicine are like a comeback, only giving him a brief wakefulness, and in less than half an hour, he will definitely be out of breath. Where did you come from, little girl? Go ahead, we adults are very busy and don't have time to chat with you. Chiu Susu couldn't stand this little girl from just now and didn't know where she came from. Several experts and doctors were discussing countermeasures here. A little girl, what's causing trouble here? Quack doctor. Yechen was too lazy to waste time with them and was about to leave. Unexpectedly, Chiu Susu couldn't hold her breath and suddenly scolded, "Who are you talking about? Stop. Susu, don't argue with a girl doll. The old man's condition is important now," the male director advised kindly. She called me a quack. Chiu Susu was furious and looked at Yechen with a look of dissatisfaction. You should know that she is the most qualified and youngest deputy chief doctor among these doctors. I wonder how many awards and praises she has received. How dare this little girl question her medical skills? She doesn't understand the situation. What are you arguing with her about? The male director was anxious and just wanted to quickly resolve the old man's matter. Anyway, people cannot die in hospitals, otherwise everyone present will be implicated. We can't have surgery now, nor can we let him die. We can only take sedatives and comfort pills. Who did you just say is a quack? Chiu Susu approached Yechen and asked defiantly, "Go ahead, I'm listening. Who else besides you?" Yechen's eyes slightly raised, obviously not taking her seriously. "You. What a brave girl you are." Yechen folded her hands on her chest and said in a casual tone, "In his current situation, there is no other way but to undergo surgery." "Surgery? You child said it easily," Chiu Susu chuckled in anger. "This old gentleman has already undergone 5 heart surgeries, and it can be said that his heart is no longer in perfect condition. Not to mention Jinkong Hospital, there is no hospital in the country where a doctor dares to perform a 6th heart surgery on his scarred heart. Forget about Susu." The male director only wanted to calm things down, but Chiu Susu's temper was clearly irresistible. Mr. Lau's situation, whether in domestic or foreign literature, has never seen a similar case. It can be said that from ancient times to the present, he is the only one. Chiu Susu said with a resounding tone, "Do you know how difficult the surgery is? Before this, we have communicated with many well-known cardiac surgery experts at home and abroad, and no one can come up with a better solution." Yechen raised her eyebrows and said casually, "That's because you can't do it. Are you okay?" Chiu Susu sneered, "Then come on." Yechen glanced at the old man on the hospital bed, with a hint of reckless sharpness on his body, and said casually, "You can't afford it." "Ah." Chiu Susu found it extremely funny. This old gentleman is not an ordinary person. No matter how much money he has, it's just a small number. If you can save him, not to mention money, I can kneel down and call you ancestor. Yechen raised her eyebrows and said, "Okay. Oh, I don't even know where the sky and earth are." Chiu Susu didn't take her words seriously. "Have you graduated from high school? Do you know where your heart is? Surgery is not just about picking and pulling with a knife. Do you think you're cutting steak in a restaurant and doing whatever you want? I don't care where you come from. Apologize to me, and if you leave obediently, I'll just pretend that what happened just now hasn't happened." Yechen glanced at the work sign on her left chest and spoke disapprovingly, "Deputy Director of Cardiac Surgery, you don't even know how to perform artificial valve replacement. Do you want me to apologize? You. Saying that you are a quack doctor has already elevated you. Listen to what this dead girl is saying." Chiu Susu was furious. The female director beside her muttered to herself, "She actually knows about artificial valve replacement surgery. Such a professional name, can it be said from the mouth of an ordinary little girl? Does she really understand medicine?" The male director also realized this and looked at Yechen with surprise and shock in his eyes. He whispered to Chiu Susu, "Why don't we let her try? Maybe she has a way." "Director Li, you're really confused. You believe even a little girl's words." Before Chiu Susu could finish speaking, he heard another doctor muttering softly, "If something happens, you can also blame her. She's not a doctor at the hospital." Chiu Susu turned back and whispered, "What kind of person is Mr. Chen? If something happens, all of us present can't leave. Do you think finding a little girl to take the blame?" She turned around and glanced at Yechen with disdain in her eyes. If she really knew medicine, she would have been famous long ago. She's the one who works as the director here. What else do we need to do? The male director felt helpless, but right now we don't have a better way. "Why not?" the female director boldly spoke up, invite Dr. Tang over. Tang Yang is recognized as a genius in the hospital, but Dr. Tang is very proud. He is not the patient he is responsible for, so he won't be able to see. Xiao Susu was very aware of this, so he never bothered him with this matter from beginning to end. He has a bad temper, and it's highly likely that he will blow people out and not give them any face. What should we do now? I don't know if their voices are too loud, but there are 7 or 8 people watching outside the ward, quietly discussing something. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Don't forget to kneel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Don't forget to kneel. Professor Zhang was afraid that things would escalate, so he advised him kindly, "This little girl, the difficulty of the surgery is very high. Even as an expert professor for decades, I am not confident. In the current situation of the old gentleman, except for the deceased medical sage Mr. Baiha, there is no second person in the world who can guarantee that he will walk out of the operating room alive. It is not that we do not want to perform surgery on him, but our level is limited and we cannot help him. Getting sedatives and soothing pills is also a last resort. It's only when the family members come to sign them that they can confidently save people. Otherwise, they would always fear the power of Lord Chen in their hearts and dare not let go to save the old man." "Just now, you said there will be a reward after completing the surgery?" Yechen suddenly asked. "This." Professor Zhang was shocked for half a second and hurriedly said, "Of course. What kind of person is Mr. C? As long as he can save his life, how much money is not a problem." Yechen helped the Bai family earn a lot of money before, but in the end, it all went into the Bai family's pocket. Coupled with Mrs. Bai's illness, she almost spent all her savings having a minor surgery, and earning some money is not a bad idea. Professor Zhang couldn't help but ask, "Little girl, do you really understand medicine?" Yenfei's lips curved lightly. "Getting a knife is not a problem." "So how do you plan to save it?" "Of course, it's a heart valve replacement surgery, but the prerequisite is that I want Tang Yang to be my assistant." Haha. Xiao Susu beside her felt like she was delusional when she heard this. "Who do you think you are? What kind of person is Tang Yang? I could have called him over, but he would have been your assistant. I could have turned my head off and kicked you like a ball." She looked disdainful when she said this and turned to Professor Zhang, saying, "Professor Zhang, don't waste your breath with her anymore. There's not much time now, let's take some sedatives and soothing tongs first." She instructed the little nurse beside her, "Go get the medicine and tell the security room that there's a lunatic here." When the little nurse ran out, she accidentally ran into Tang Yang and hurriedly explained. Soon, a familiar voice echoed through the ward. "Who is looking for me?" Everyone looked up and didn't expect Tang Yang to appear here, with shock on their faces. How did this little nurse invite Tang Yang? How can a little nurse please this great Buddha? "Dr. Tang, you've come just in time." Xiao Susu seized the opportunity and never let go of Yechen, shamelessly insulting her. "This girl is bold and wants you to be her assistant." Tang Yang glanced at Yechen, and the little girl stood aside unintentionally, as if all the attacks around her could not harm her. He frowned slightly and glanced at Xiao Susu, dissatisfied with the woman's quality. He asked the others, "What's the situation?" "This patient." Xiao Susu quickly explained the situation first, and even intentionally rolled a strand of hair behind her ear, revealing her self-proclaimed beautiful profile, hoping to leave a good impression on Tang Yang. There have never been such cases in China or abroad. What else do we have to wait for? Tang Yang reluctantly took the hot potato for the sake of the little girl and said expressionlessly, "Let's have surgery." "Dr. Tang, why are you fooling around with her?" Xiao Susu didn't expect such a result. He was stunned for a second and hurriedly said, "Now that we have surgery, the success rate is less than 10%. This old gentleman has a noble status, and if something happens, we can't afford it." Tang Yang's gaze was displeased, and even his voice had a hint of coolness. If something happens, you don't have to take responsibility, he said, Dr. Tang. I will bear it alone. All the doctors were stunned. Is he planning to hang out with the little girl? Tang Yang didn't waste time with them. He glanced at Yen and said, come with me. He is taking her to the operating room. As Yen passed by Chiu Susu's side, she lightly curled her lips and said, didn't she say she wanted to twist her head off and kick me like a ball? You. Chiu Susu was a bit speechless. She had just said that if Tang Yang was willing to help this girl, he would turn his head off and kick her, but she really didn't expect Tang Yang to agree. Tang Yang is usually very proud, why did he suddenly change his personality today? Is it because the little girl is beautiful? Don't forget your promise, said Yenmei with her lips slightly raised, me. What promise did you make? Chiu Susu suddenly remembered, oh, I said you could save the old gentleman, so I knelt down and called out to your ancestors, but I'm afraid you don't have this ability. Don't cure people to death, we'll have to blame you then. Yen slowly raised her lips, her beautiful and clear eyes disapproving. You want to call me my ancestor, but I don't want to recognize a little kid like you. You. Don't forget to kneel, Yen said as she followed Tang Yang's footsteps and left. Chiu Susu looked at her back, as if unable to swallow this breath, and loudly said, if you can save the old gentleman, don't just kneel down. I can even skip the position of deputy director. She said, patting her chest tag, it depends on whether you have the ability to take it away. Tang Yang heard their gambling agreement and casually asked, why did you get into a fight with her? A person who knows nothing about heaven and earth. Coincidentally, the determination to kill her also made her know what it means to have heaven outside the world and to have people outside the world. Mr. C was pushed to the operating room by 2 nurses, leaving only a few doctors in the ward looking at each other. Crazy, crazy, both of them are crazy. How can this old man undergo surgery for his illness? I think Dr. Tang is just too young to know the consequences of failure. It's not as simple as losing his reputation and ruining his future. What kind of person is Lord Chen? If something happens to the old gentleman, Lord Chen will take the lives of all of them. Professor Zhang, are we really letting it go? After all, this is a human life. Mr. C's status is so prestigious. How could he allow them to act so recklessly? Professor Zhang, please speak up. Yeah, hurry up and stop them, while there's still time. Compared to their anxieties, the female director held a glimmer of hope. Dr. Tang was born into a medical family and has been a medical genius for generations. Although he may not be as skilled as Bai He, his superb medical skills may truly bring him back to life. The male director also held a glimmer of hope. Dr. Tang is a genius doctor praised by everyone. As long as he is here, there may be a miracle happening. You're all confused. He was working on that girl, and it was that girl who was the main culprit. That girl is only a few years old, how can she understand medicine? Director Liu was anxious and turned around, Professor Zhang, please have a word. Director Liu, what are you worried about? Dr. Tang once said that if something happens, he will take responsibility alone. After all, it's Mr. C's biological grandfather. If the doctor dies, Mr. C will blame us for not stopping him. Then let's say that Dr. Tang insisted on performing this surgery, we can't stop it. Chiu Susu pondered fiercely. Who let him accompany the little girl to play around? This little girl doesn't know the true identity of the old man. If she did, she might have been scared away long ago. Who dares to take this hot potato? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Chen comes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Chen comes. Professor Zhang, who had not spoken for a long time, finally spoke up and said, I will go observe and see what kind of person the little girl can cure. As Professor Zhang left, several other doctors followed suit and said, Professor Zhang, you can't just watch. While Mr. Chen hasn't arrived yet, come up with a solution. Chiu Susu instructed the little nurse beside her, let them open all the surveillance cameras in the operating room, record evidence, and at the same time, I want to take a good look at how she will embarrass herself next. Other doctors in the hospital heard about an extremely difficult surgery, and the chief surgeon turned out to be a teenage high school student. They all went to watch it. Even with Professor Zhang's helpless condition, how could a little girl have a solution? Can't you be a scammer? Yen put on sterile clothes and was about to enter the operating room when Chiu Susu arrived. Don't say I didn't remind you, Mr. Lau's pericardium was damaged in the previous surgery. It can be said that his heart is almost pressing against the sternum. If you don't pay attention when opening the chest, you will have a heart rupture, and then the person will be gone, and you are done. I'm not you. Yen raised her eyebrows and scanned lightly, her beautiful eyes clear and charming. I wouldn't make such a low-level mistake. You. Chiu Susu was so angry. Okay, then I'll wait for your first strike. She turned around in anger and walked into the observation room. The observation room was already crowded with doctors, and when they saw that the chief surgeon entering the operating room was really a young girl, they were all amazed. Professor Zhang, where did she come from? Do you really allow her to behave like this? How old is she? It looks like she hasn't even graduated from high school. The one lying on the hospital bed is Mr. C's biological grandfather. If something happens, let alone you, everyone will have to be buried together. She loves to show off herself, and Dr. Tang is willing to hold on. What are you worried about? Chiu Susu crossed her hands on her chest, looking sarcastically at the girl inside through the large glass wall. Yen put on a medical mask, her charming eyes bright and clear, and her calm and composed demeanor really had some of the demeanor of a chief surgeon. Put yourself in a proper position. Apply anesthesia. Skin disinfection. Knife. Yen ordered Tang Yang on the side in an orderly manner. The doctor in the observation room was extremely surprised. Does she really understand medicine? This step is not wrong. Can she really save Mr. C? Chiu Susu sneered and said, "Oh, I guess I learned it from TV. I advise you not to have too much hope. If this girl can save someone, she can live stream and swallow a surgical knife." Originally, some people had a glimmer of hope for Yen's medical skills, but when they saw Yen holding a knife, they couldn't calm down one by one. What's wrong with this girl? With such a big surgery, she's using her left hand. Is she left-handed? Left-handed people don't play as steadily as right-handed people. If she is right-handed but intentionally performs surgery with her left hand, then she must be crazy. She doesn't take this surgery seriously either. It's also possible that she doesn't even know how to undergo surgery. Professor Zhang, how can you believe what a little girl says? It's really over now. No one dares to complete such an important surgery with their left hand. Tang Yang was also surprised when he saw the little girl holding a knife with her left hand. He remembered that the little girl was right-handed. Is your right hand injured and you can only use your left hand? Because the old man has undergone many heart valve replacement surgeries, the heart structure has long been different from that of ordinary people. Yen took a sharp cut and opened his sternum, startling everyone. Not to mention a little girl, even an experienced old doctor wouldn't dare to perform such a surgery. This calm and composed demeanor was really done by a little girl. I doubt my own eyes. Her first cut was so good. Saying it's fast, accurate, and ruthless is not an exaggeration. Even Chiu Susu was stunned and murmured, how could it be? How did she do it? It doesn't look like a beginner at all. Yen opened his sternum and found that the old man's heart was scarred, and the blood vessels were not in their original positions, making it difficult to distinguish which one was different. Without the protection of the pericardium, the heart was almost stuck to the sternum. Tang Yang took a glance and knew the situation was serious. He was a bit worried that the little girl wouldn't know where to start, but he remained calm and handled every detail perfectly. Enlarge the details. Professor Zhang was shocked and couldn't help but wonder how she would handle it next. Yechen is carefully separating the adhesion between the heart and the posterior wall of the sternum, which is the most difficult part of the surgery. According to the current situation of the old man, even experienced doctors can handle it in a few hours. But for Yechen, half an hour is enough. She lowered her head, her charming eyes shining brightly, and her whole body exuded a confident aura. All doctors hold their breath, because this process is not insignificant. If you accidentally damage the heart tissue or any blood vessel, it's all over. At the same time, a massive queue appeared. The man led by him looks only in his 20s, but exudes a strong aura throughout his body. Xia Fei's soared eyebrows, handsome nose bridge, exquisite facial features, the whole person looks extraordinary, cold and noble. Everyone made concessions when they saw him, their voices filled with fear and awe. Chen Yi, are you here? Looking at the 7 or 8 cardiac experts behind him, each one is a top figure in the industry. There is no second expert in the world besides Chen Yi who can call these experts in such a short time. Mr. C's condition has worsened again, and he has finally managed to control pneumonia and develop symptoms of heart failure. Professor Zhang quickly bowed to the side and respectfully spoke. Today during the examination, it was found that Mr. C has artificial valve infective endocarditis and paravalvular leakage. Who is she? C. Yechen's gaze fell on the chief surgeon in the operating room, his gaze cold and indifferent. She was wearing a medical mask with only a pair of clear eyes visible, but it was not difficult to see that she was only in her teens. She is. Professor Zhang followed his gaze, his heart beating incessantly. If he said this, would he not see the sun tomorrow? Assistant Aoki beside him couldn't help but get angry. The hospital couldn't hire such a young doctor. On the way here, I heard that a high school student wanted to perform surgery on Mr. C, and that's her. Is Jinkang Hospital so irresponsible now? No matter whether the doctor has qualifications or experience, as long as they have enough courage, they can perform surgery on Mr. C. I see you all are tired of it. King Tazu, this is not the case. Professor Zhang was so scared that he went weak all over, and in an instant, he fell silent, unable to explain a word. The doctors in the entire observation room were even more frightened out of their wits. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Blank check filling out randomly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Blank check filling out randomly. Although Chiu Susu was trembling with fear, she bravely said, it was Dr. Tang's intention. If he says something, he will take responsibility. What does he bear? Does he take the lives of all of you? Upon hearing Aoki's words, Chiu Susu's face turned pale with fear and she couldn't say a word. Chen Yi, let our experts go in and save the old man first. The chief surgeon and assistant inside will be handed over to me for handling, and none of these people can leave. Aoki finished speaking, his eyes coldly scanning the whole room. We must let them know what the cost of recklessness is. Dare to randomly pull a high school student to perform surgery on the old man. Are you living impatiently? At this moment, 7 or 8 experts behind C. Yechen were all surprised. She actually separated all the adhesions. Not a single blood vessel was injured, and even the heart tissue was intact. The key is, she used her left hand to hold the knife. How did she do it? She managed to handle such a difficult adhesion separation so quickly. Although it was a particularly difficult surgery, in Yechen's hands, it was as natural as eating and drinking water. After handling the adhesion, she lifted her beautiful eyes, and her temperament was fresh and refined, leaving a deep impression at first glance. Professor Zhang, who the hell is she? One of the foreign cardiac experts brought by C. Yechen asked in broken Chinese, is this the new doctor from the hospital? I wonder if I have the honor to communicate with her later. We arrived late and didn't see how she opened her chest, but being able to separate the adhesions so well, her medical skills are definitely superior to mine. I also have a question to ask her. Not only Aoki was surprised, but everyone present was shocked. A teenage girl had completely separated all the adhesions in the shortest possible time. Being able to do this step is already surprising. Even experienced experts cannot guarantee that all adhesions will be completely separated in such a short amount of time. Will she look like a little girl, but inside is an old miracle doctor in her teens? Otherwise, how can she explain that she can achieve this step? Yechen's expression was solemn, and his handsome eyebrows and eyes showed a hint of estrangement, unable to show any emotions. Chiu Susu couldn't help but sarcastically say, even if she didn't hurt any blood vessels or heart tissue, Mr. C had undergone multiple surgeries before and there wasn't much tissue left for suturing around the heart valve. The mitral valve annulus left, making it difficult for an artificial heart valve to stand. This is also one of the reasons why they are hesitant to undergo surgery. Su. Professor Zhang scolded in a low voice, somewhat dissatisfied. Chiu Susu looked righteous and said, I just want everyone to know that Mr. C has a serious heart infection, tissue edema is very critical, and the suturing of artificial valves is extremely difficult. If there are problems with her suturing, Mr. C's heart function will be difficult to improve in the future, and there is a high possibility of serious complications. Professor Zhang knew that she was afraid that the world would not be chaotic, so he hurriedly told Yechen, Mr. C, this little girl's medical skills are very advanced. I believe she will be able to handle this situation well in the future. Moreover, Dr. Tang has been her assistant. Dr. Tang was born into a medical family and has a talent for intelligence. His grandfather is Tang Changhai, and his medical skills are well known both domestically and internationally. Tang Changhai. Yechen's gaze was clear, and the male assistant in front of him was Tang Yang, Tang Changhai's only beloved grandson. Tang Changhai is also one of the famous doctors he invited. Unfortunately, there was a traffic jam on the road today and he hasn't arrived at the scene yet. Seeing that Yechen's face was indifferent and there was no response, Professor Zhang's heart trembled with fear, like walking on thin ice, and he didn't know what his thoughts were. Next, Yan's unparalleled suture technology has made all the doctors present feel inferior after a surgery. Everyone was shocked. Mr. C has really survived. He's still alive. Oh Xiaoyan, are you really human? After observing the entire surgery, Tang Yang felt the deepest. This girl is really much more terrifying than he knew. He was originally prepared to save the scene at any time, but now it seems that he is completely beyond his means. His little girl's medical skills are far superior to his, so he doesn't need to worry about it at all. Push people out. Yan washed her hands and walked out of the operating room. Many doctors waiting outside were applauding and praising her medical skills. Upon seeing this scene, Chiu Susu couldn't help but clench her fist and thrust her nails into her palm. I didn't expect this dead girl to have some skills. When Mr. C's emergency bed was pushed out of the operating room, many doctors came forward to confirm that he was still breathing and his condition seemed quite stable. It's all gone, it's all gone. The patient needs to rest now. Tang Yang knew that the little girl was tired, and without realizing it, they had already undergone surgery for 2 hours. It was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he didn't know if the little girl was hungry. Many doctors who joined in the fun dispersed, leaving only Yechen, 7 or 8 cardiac experts, as well as Professor Zhang and others in the crowd. I'll take Mr. C back to the ward first, Tang Yang turned to Yan and said, I'll be back in a moment. Yan nodded, took off her mask, and revealed a delicate and bright face. She looked carefree and alluring, looking charming and charming. Who are the family members? Yan raised her gaze and had some things to explain. The man leading the way took a step and stood in front of her, at a height of 1.9 meters, which was inexplicably harmonious compared to the girl who was 1.7 meters tall. Yechen looked at the man in front of her, his facial features as if finely crafted by God's hands, each proportion being perfect. A pair of dark and deep ink pupils seemed to be painted, charming and clear. Mr. C, the situation is like this. Mr. C is critically ill, and the villain dared to promise this little girl that if she could save Mr. C, the amount of compensation would not be a problem. Professor Zhang on the side quickly spoke up to help the little girl demand compensation. Saiken looked at the little girl in front of him, with a hint of ripples in his ink pupils, and then glanced at Qingmu. Aoki immediately pulled out a blank check and sent it to the front. "Thank you, Miss Doctor, for your help. This is a little favor from Lord Chen, and the amount is at your disposal." Yechen raised her clear and watery eyes, somewhat surprised. What is the origin of this person named Qinyi, and is he quite generous in his actions? The people around her looked at her with surprise or envy. Getting a blank check not only means achieving great success, but more importantly, receiving recognition from Yechen has many opportunities for future development. It can only be said that this girl is very lucky and has a bright future. Then I'll be more respectful than obedient. Yenfei lightly hooked her lips and put the check into the pocket of her white coat, without any hesitation, making it feel crisp and neat. The old man will be able to leave the ventilator tomorrow. As soon as Yechen finished speaking, she heard a sneer from Chiu Susu in the corner. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Give me your phone number. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Give me your phone number. It's okay for Chiu Susu not to smile, but as soon as she smiled, Yechen noticed. Yechen raised her eyebrows and said casually, "It's time to fulfill our promise, Deputy Director Chiu." Chiu Susu, who was constantly envious, jealous, and resentful, forgot about their gambling agreement. Yechen is here, and Chiu Susu will never let herself be embarrassed no matter what. No way. She shamelessly spread her hands and said, "What promise? What did I say?" "Deputy Director Chiu, how could you do this?" The little nurse beside couldn't help but speak. "You just said it yourself. If this young lady can save Mr. C, you can kneel down and kowtow to her, not even the position of Deputy Director. Do you have it? Did I say that?" Chiu Susu refused to admit it. "Where is the evidence?" "If you don't want to kneel down, at least apologize to them," said another doctor who couldn't bear it anymore. "After all, she just talked to the little girl so unpleasant. Why should I apologize?" Chiu Susu continued shamelessly, with a helpless expression on her face. It's almost hopeless. Just when everyone had no way to deal with her, Yechen lifted his foot and kicked with lightning speed, causing Chiu Susu to plop and kneel down on the spot. Everyone didn't see clearly how she made the move, they just heard the sound of her knees colliding with the ground, which was quite painful. You damn girl." Chiu Susu's lips trembled with pain, unable to stand up. "As a doctor, it is your duty to save lives and heal the wounded." Yechen's eyes sparkled with cold light, and her voice was even colder. "The knife in your hand is used to save people, not to save lives. You. Chiu Susu trembled with anger. "Don't think you'll spit blood in front of Lord Chen. I didn't do anything. Whether you have done it or not, and what you want to do, everyone knows it well." At this moment, the dean rushed over upon hearing the news and said, "Mr. C, is the old man okay?" I'm sorry, I just came back from the academic exchange meeting." "Hey, what's going on here? Xiaoqiu, why are you kneeling down?" When Chiu Susu saw the dean, tears welled up in her eyes and she couldn't even stand up in pain. You should know that the dean is very optimistic about her, and previously praised her in front of many doctors, making everyone follow her as an example. She was about to speak up when she heard the dean's surprised voice. "Yechen, why are you here too? Are you still wearing sterile clothing? You're not the high school student who performed surgery on Mr. C, are you? I heard about it on my way here." So, Mr. C is okay. Everyone was shocked when they heard his words. Director Fu not only knows this little girl, but besides what he said, he also seems to highly approve of her medical skills. Seeing no one answer his words, Dean Fu became even more puzzled and said, "Well, what's going on here? Miss Yen, come and talk about it." "Uncle Fu." Yen greeted him in a loud voice, "It's nothing, I just don't want to see her in this industry in the future." The dean glanced at Chiu Susu and then at Yen. "What did Xiao Qiu do to make you angry?" "It's not anger." Yan's unintentional aura, with a strong aura, "This is the first time I've heard of patients with heart failure experiencing endocarditis and paravalvular leakage, and they can also receive sedatives and soothing drugs. This is like a comeback. In less than half an hour, this person will be gone." Director Fu turned back to look at Chiu Susu. Yen spoke casually, "I can only say that your hospital's admission standards are too casual." "Xiaoqiu, why don't you perform surgery on the patient?" the dean immediately asked. "Dean, Mr. Lau's condition was extremely critical at the time, and we were powerless. Unable to do anything, can you take sedatives and soothing pills? Even if Hua Tuo reincarnates, you know you can't turn the tide. You are a doctor, but when the patient still has hope for survival, you were the first to sentence them to death. How could you do this?" Before she could speak, Dean Fu was extremely disappointed and said, "You go, Jinkong Hospital won't keep you anymore. In the future, you won't be allowed to enter this industry. People who don't care about the patient's life and only care about their own future are not worthy of being doctors." Dean Fu is the president of the National Medical Association. With just one word from him, Chiu Susu won't want to eat the food of this industry in the future. "Dean, give me another chance, Dean." Although Chiu Susu knew that the dean had driven her away, she was afraid that Lord Chen would blame her and the consequences would be even more serious, but she really can't bear to leave this place. The salary here is high, and everyone treats her well. Her future was originally bright. It's all because of this dead girl. "Take the people down." Dean Fu finished speaking and turned to apologize to Yechen. "I'm really sorry. What happened right under my nose?" Fu was extremely ashamed. Fortunately, Miss Yen acted in a timely manner and didn't cause a big mistake. "What's your name?" Yechen's gaze fell on Yen, his voice clear. It can be seen that he is usually a quiet person, even his face is as indifferent as his words. Yen responded confidently, "Yen. Give me your phone number." Yechen handed her phone over and asked her to enter the number. Yen received a blank check and naturally understood his meaning. If there were any problems with the old man later on, she would be responsible and asked to leave her contact information so that she could be contacted in the future. She took the man's phone, tapped the screen with her slender fingers, entered a string of numbers, and then lifted her gaze. With a beautiful face as fair as snow, she returned the phone. "Mr. Lau has had multiple chest surgeries, and early postoperative sternum floating can make healing difficult. His left lower limb may also experience swelling and pain due to extracorporeal circulation and multiple intubations, which are normal phenomena. Don't blame her for her poor medical skills afterwards." Yechen's gaze traced the girl's facial features, and her voice was deep and clear. "How can I alleviate the pain?" Yen glanced at the 7 or 8 cardiac experts behind him and said, "These small problems can be solved by them. Uncle Fu, there's nothing I need to do first." "Hey, good. Go to the changing room to change into sterile clothes." Yen puts on a baseball cap, carries a backpack, and prepares to leave. Xiaoyan. In the long corridor of the hospital, Tang Yang caught up with her and said, "Is your right hand okay? I've been wanting to ask, what's wrong with your right hand? Why did you have surgery on your left hand today? If there are no issues, a right-handed person cannot perform surgery with their left hand. It's okay." Yen moved her sore wrist, dismissive. "I beat people too much last night." Tang Yang's expression suddenly became complicated. "So, you'll still be fighting. What kind of immortal character is this? Being able to easily obtain the priceless elixir, performing surgery, and even fighting. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Becoming a top rich family and a true daughter. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 10. Becoming a top rich family and a true daughter. Are you left-handed or right-handed? Do you usually have surgery with your left hand or right hand? He is really curious. I have no problem with both hands. You. Are you really human? At this moment, an old man who arrived shouted, "Let's all make way, let's all make way." "Hey, Shaoyan girl, why are you here?" Oh Yan's eyes were clear and bright, and she was somewhat surprised when she saw someone coming. Grandpa Tang. Shaoyan, you were also invited by the young master to perform surgery on the old master. I wonder if I have the honor to assist you. I'm done. What? It's done. Just now, there was a traffic jam on the road, which caused him to run all the way and almost run out of breath. As a result, he had already completed the surgery. Did you do it alone? Tang Changhai gasped for breath before coming up. And he too. Tang Laoshuan looked around and saw the person standing next to her clearly. He was suddenly shocked and said, "Stinky kid, why are you here?" "Grandpa." Tang Yang replied helplessly, "This is where I work." Sure enough, Grandpa forgot again. However, Grandpa, who has always had a strange temper and is arrogant, surprisingly spoke in a gentle tone in front of a little girl, even with a hint of pleasing. Tang Yang was really shocked. Who exactly is this Shaoyan? What other identity can make his grandfather admire him to such an extent besides his superb medical skills? You little boy, being able to work as an assistant to Shaoyan is a blessing you have cultivated for 10 lifetimes. An assistant. A blessing that has been cultivated for 10 lifetimes. Is there any serious illness in his grandfather's brain? Although the little girl has exquisite medical skills, it is not so exaggerated. Have you taken care of the old lady in room 301? Tang Changhai asked casually. Tang Yang could only say, I go to see it every day. What a day. Tang Lao interrupted before he could finish speaking. From now on, at 3/4 a day, at fixed times, we must go and watch. Grandpa, I'm very busy. It's not possible to revolve around by Lao Tai alone for 24 hours. Let you serve dim sum, you really didn't like it. Wait, Shaoyan girl, I'll teach him a lesson first. Tang Changhai was impolite, raised his hand and hit him on the shoulder. You bastard, haven't seen you rough for too long. Grandpa, this is a hospital. No noise allowed. You stinky kid, you're still running. You think I can't catch up, right? I just ran 3 kilometers. 10 minutes later. The esteemed Rolls-Royce drove into the gate of the lakeside villa on the other side. 33 luxurious private villas stand by the lake, supreme. The car passed through a spacious greenway and stopped in front of one of the villas. A couple had long been looking forward outside the gate when they saw Lao Lu's car coming. They looked at each other and were obviously stunned. What's going on? Li Yuanfu asked first. How did the car look like this? Where is his precious daughter? Are people okay? The image of the driver getting off the car stunned Song Qiaoying. Song Qiaoying couldn't believe it and said, Lao Lu, your glasses, your clothes. Have you had a car accident on the way? Where is Yenren? Is she okay? Speaking, the couple hurriedly looked at the back seat of the car. Miss Lu is fine, I accidentally got hit by a truck on my own way. The driver quickly opened the car door and respectfully said, Miss Lu, your home is here. Yen raised her gaze and met the 2 lines of sight from outside the car. When Song Qiaoying was young, she was incredibly beautiful, even more so than the entertainment actresses of that era. Now, at the age of 50, her whole body exudes a gentle and dignified aura. She couldn't help but blush when she saw Yen and said, "Are you Yen? My precious daughter." As soon as Yan's foot landed, the next second, she was held in Song Qiaoying's arms. "Finally found you." The sudden embrace made Yen somewhat uncomfortable, but she also felt a hint of warmth. "Let Mom take a look." Song Qiaoying lifted Yan's face. The child's facial features were excellent, and her skin was white and tender. With tears in her eyes, she kindly asked, "Have you been living well at the Bai family these years?" "Okay." Just one simple word and make Song Qiaoying shed 2 lines of tears, "As long as it's okay, as long as she doesn't bully her precious daughter. We should be happy when our daughter comes back." The speaker was Li Yuanfu, whose eyes were also slightly red. "If you have anything to say, don't let your precious daughter stand tired." "Yes, Yen, come in quickly," Song Qiaoying said, taking off Yan's backpack and handing it to Li Yuanfu. Li Yuanfu held this bag without any famous brand logo and looked at Yan's back. His nose couldn't help but ache. Over the years, has his daughter been doing well? Why are you carrying such an ordinary bag when you're already a big girl? Not even a branded garment. Thinking of this, he slowed down his pace and waited for them to walk away before taking out his phone. "Order my daughter 100 pieces of clothing, 100 pairs of shoes, 100 bags, a unique style in the world. It must be delivered before sunset today. Yen, from now on, this will be your home." Song Qiaoying took Yan's hand and walked into the villa gate. The garden is full of exotic flowers and plants, with over 90,000 water lilies and over 10 million Juliet roses visible everywhere. In the middle of the garden stood 30 servants, including butlers, drivers, gatekeepers, chefs, gardeners, servants, and bodyguards. They all bowed together and said, "Welcome Miss Six home." Through the fairy tale-like garden, enter the main hall, where precious calligraphy, paintings, and priceless antiques can be seen everywhere. Isn't it said that her family is very poor? Yan's gaze fell on a painting. At a recent auction, the painting, Drunk Return of the 5 Kings, was sold for a sky-high price of 300 million yuan. This is an outstanding work by the famous horse painting master Ren Renfa of the Yuan dynasty, which can be seen by Yen and is a genuine work. Song Qiaoying followed her gaze as if she had found a topic and happily asked, Yen, do you like that painting? I have someone hang it in your room." "No need." She was just surprised that there were so many collections at home, but unfortunately, this painting of 5 Kings Drunken Returning hung in that pile of modern art paintings, appearing abrupt and out of place. "Don't Yen like it? Someone, put away the painting." Li Yuanfu, who followed closely, immediately ordered. The butler on the side was somewhat reluctant. "You should know that this painting, The Drunken Return of the 5 Kings, was originally stored in the Qin Palace and is a rare and precious treasure." Surprisingly, the master wanted to put it away because of this inexperienced 6th Mississippi. The key is that this painting is loved by Miss Yusha. Yen saw hostility in the butler's eyes, which clearly came towards her. However, she didn't care and gave her parents a suggestion, "You can hang it inside." Her gaze fell on a tea room not far away, where several works by Ren Renfa were paired with the antique style of the tea room, particularly showcasing taste. But the butler was heartbroken. Such an expensive painting just needs to be hung up for people to see. As expected, this rural girl doesn't know the value of this painting. "I also think hanging inside is good." Song Qiaoying was the first to support her, "My precious daughter is really insightful." Butler. End of this chapter.